Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. For what that's worth, to those of us that are practically, like, barely even living on planet Earth, what is time?
Time doesn't exist.
What is time anyway? Happy Friday, guys. It is day 65 of your free real estate education. The outline has been outlined on the website, educatedpowerexplore.com. And right now, of course, like we've talked about, a lot of people have turned the page. They're sort of like up and running now. Both of the students from the high school course are licensed. We have a few licensed members of our adult course. And but everybody, like we've talked about before, day one could start working towards earning commission. Day one, as an unlicensed professional, as a finder, finding and generating real estate leads. But today's day 65, and it is Friday, which means that it is time for a Socratic discussion. And today we're going to talk about how you can serve your community. Community. It's not just the new buzzword. It's something that is fostered. It is needed right now. So anyway, we've talked about this a lot. We've talked about the fact that it is needed, that people need to gather, to educate, and it's important. So anyway, so what we're going to talk about is how you can serve your community, how you can integrate service into your business. And I want to send you guys a YouTube link. And in fact, I'll go ahead and I'll drop this in the class right now, both on YouTube and on in Facebook. Let's see. Needed like we need water. Absolutely. Watch how property law is used to appropriate black land. This video goes into, it's a piece that Vice did, I believe, and it is the next part of our curriculum. I want you to watch this over your weekend and see that this is not something that is part of the past. You know, people will say, oh, this is something you're just jumping on right now. No, this is something that we developed as a curriculum like 6 or 7 months ago, and it just happens to continue to be relevant. So watch how property law is used to appropriate black land through heirs property rights, and then we're going to jump into the Socratic discussion, because the important thing right now is that you start thinking objectively about your business. You're not free when you're an employee. You're not free when you're paying off somebody else's land. We essentially are in situations where we are glorified serfs. We explain what black land is. So that's part of, so black land is, there are billions of dollars in property that is owned through what is called heirs property, which means that there was never a legal filing that passed off the property from the person who owned the property, however it is that they came to own it, whether it was through homesteading, through sharecropping, through whatever it is, whether they purchased it, et cetera, and so forth. So what happened is a lot of people passed away who did not fill out legal documentation, passing on the property to the people that were going to inherit it. And that could happen 2 or 3 generations. And then at that point, what happens is, instead of one person owning the property, now 36 people have rights to the property after 3 generations. And so what will happen is people will, investors, which they're hardly people, will go and buy out a majority of the interest in the property. And they will, they'll track down, of the 36, they'll track down 19 people. 50 plus 1, right? 19 people. They purchased their rights to the property. They say, hey, you have property rights to property. I don't even know if you know this, but I'd be willing to pay you $836 or $2,000 or whatever for your rights to this property. Now, let's say it's $2,000, which it probably isn't, but $2,000 times 19 is, what is that? 19, Serpa, you dingus. 30, 48? Is that 48? 38,000. You saw where I was going with it, right? So 38. Okay, so $38,000. So now you own the majority of the property for $38,000 because you bought somebody else's rights to it who may not even be living in the property. The next thing that's happened is the person who bought the rights to the property, they go into the courthouse, they file for public auction, saying that they put the property up for auction. They because it's in the newspaper, it's a notification, and a lot of the people who live in these properties in these beautiful pieces of land don't read the paper. They don't go down to the courthouse. And so because of this outdated sort of law that has been used to manipulate people, they use it to continue to manipulate people. And so now for $38,000, they own the majority stock of the 19 of the 36 people who have inherited rights to the property. And then at that point, they force the auction of the sale of the house. They are the only person who attends the auction. And then because they've attended the auction, now let's say they buy the house for $2,500 or something like that. And then the people are served with the notice to vacate. And then the land, like in this piece that was done, and like I said, I think it's by Vice, the land is used for farming the trees. And so they go into this beautiful land, they just start cutting down the trees. And this is happening right now a lot in the South, but you're going to continue to see this happen throughout the country as more and more people pass away. Okay, so that's what I mean by black land. Okay, cool. Yeah, so at the end of the day, the math is devastating. Real estate has been used to build wealth, but only for certain communities. And so it's been detrimental to many others, predominantly black and brown communities. Yep, look at what happened to Malibu. Breaking news yesterday that the original family will be given back their land, which will make them millionaires. Good, fantastic. I believe that is that the Bruce family? Is that Bruce Beach? Okay, so this is starting to happen more and more. You're starting to hear about this stuff. And of course, in Bruce's Beach, is that Manhattan Beach? What happened was there was the Bruce family, and you could look this up. The Bruce family owned this beach. They were going to use it for okay, cool. Yep, yes, it's the Bruce family. And the Bruce family owned a significant part of this beach. Or no, they owned the whole beach. And they were going to make a resort for black families. And what happened is they tried to condemn the property. And then when they were unable to condemn the property, they tried to chase them out with the Ku Klux Klan. And the Ku Klux Klan came in. And when the Klan wasn't able to get it done, then they legislated through eminent domain the closure of the property. They owned a resort. The Bruce family owned Malibu. So of course, and we're looking at stuff like this, and this has happened a lot. This isn't an isolated incident. And so the more that you look into real estate, the more that you see the corrupt ways that real estate was used to manipulate people, which is why we are looking at upsetting the setup. That's what we're doing with our community. The idea is to educate, to empower, and to explore, right? So if generational wealth was created through real estate, and we're getting ready to experience the greatest transfer of wealth in American history through the post-boomer boom, 95% of wealth that is inherited is spent within the first 5 years. How do we empower people to go out and sell real estate, get a piece of that commission, empower communities, and then empower themselves and their communities by understanding how important it is to own these communities, own these businesses, empower other people, create paths to wealth where the path to wealth is not the exception, but the rule. And if we can do that together, if we could create a culture of collaboration where we are creating a coalition of educators, whether we're teaching people how to sell solar so they could get paid now, teaching them how to sell real estate so that they could get paid, eventually, and then teaching them how to own real estate so they could get paid indefinitely. Okay, I appreciate all of the feedback. Now, LA and Orange County have decided that they were wrong. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's going to continue to spread. And the reason why, when things like this continue to go left unchecked, the result is that you have, White Lives Matter protests, like what you're seeing right now. You start seeing people who are completely ignorant to how real estate was used to manipulate people. And so Richard Rothstein wrote a great book called The Color of Law, which I recommend. But and we've talked about on past courses, and you could look into redlining. It was not segregation was not something that happened naturally. It was government mandated. And then through government mandation or mandated segregation, poverty was created and legislated. And if you do not educate, you incarcerate. And so it's created this sort of culture where people are now, we're waking up to it across the world globally. And then we're acting in our communities in order to empower people through education, through opportunity. And I feel like it really makes sense that we start building the floor in this country. Okay, how can you serve your community? How can you integrate service into your business? Let me go ahead and check in on this. Feel free to comment on Facebook. Right now, of course, I didn't do this class the last 2 days on Zoom or on Facebook. So we don't have the Zoom presence. We've enrolled over 100 people at this point in the class, but gee whiz, it's day 65. And so at this point, people know it's on YouTube, and people are now transitioning. They know that they don't have to wait for a real estate license to start earning money in real estate. Okay, so we can talk about a couple of things that we're doing to serve our community, and we'll go ahead and we'll take it there. And then what we'll do is we'll wrap. We'll give you the rest of your Friday to be productive and get after it. So can you, we'll just go through the calendar. Can you have some sort of a weekly merchant market, street fair, or farmers market in your area? 60% of small businesses have gone under. And so if all of these businesses have gone under, how do you help people get back to business? How do you help people pay their rent, pay their mortgage so they don't lose their home? And so we're doing the best that we can with something that we've called a merchant market, because there's certain rules and guidelines to holding a farmer's market. You could call it a street fair, but the idea is to get people out, get people gathered, help people transact, because at the end of the day, after COVID-19, after the plague, came enlightenment, came Renaissance, came people learning to feed themselves, feed their families, no longer depending on their landlords to feed them, okay? So that's a big one. Another thing that you could do is you could start gathering seniors. If you fit the typical demographic of what a real estate agent is, and I believe it's 62 years old according to NAR, start gathering seniors. Right now, there are a lot of seniors that are feeling isolated, that are feeling alone. That if you give people an opportunity to embrace life instead of to continuously be terrified of death, whether you're doing that through Zoom, whether you're checking temperatures, however safe or dangerous it is that you choose to be, that's up to you. That's up to individual people. It's not, of course, as the vaccination becomes more available, and then also because it's more available, more debated. I mean, holy smokes, we could really got off in the woods here. So serve seniors, do a live show, do a live community news show for your area. You could do it once a week, you could do it once a month, but bring in small businesses, nonprofits, churches, individuals, interesting news that you would like to share in your community. And then while you're doing that, you have an opportunity to influence the narrative in your community. You could hold military mixers. You could gather veterans or active duty members together, and then when you help people gather, you help people be heard. And then when you can help people be heard, you can help people heal. You could hold real estate education events like we're getting ready to do here on Tuesday with this catered event that Amy has organized. We have Chef Rivera coming in and catering an education seminar locally to help people understand this real estate market, because it is a very bizarre market. You can door knock, of course, to create value. You can have a women's empowerment group, right, Amy? What a gift that's been. And if you're in an area outside of French Valley, Amy's not going to be threatened by you starting your own women's group. And I can tell you, the more the merrier. If we are supposed to be fishers of men or fishers of women, let's gather, right? We've overcomplicated church. I always talk about it. Wherever two or more are gathered, there I am. So let's gather, let's work, let's get to work. Men of the Valley is a group that gathers here on Thursdays, led by Christian Tikes. And they gather here at 6:30. If you hold a men's group in your area, whatever it is that you need to do to help people get organized and get activated, these are good things. Um, let's see. You could, you could do. We have comedy right here. We have another sold out comedy show here tonight. Mark Christopher Lawrence is going to be here. We added a second show. You could do what we did. You could buy tickets for something and then raffle them off. And so, you don't have to be in French Valley to do that. You could buy tickets for whatever in your area, and then whatever small business that you want to support, and then hold a raffle, and then people submit. Do the raffle, et cetera, and so forth. So there's a lot of different ways that you could serve. You could be of service, and then still have the ask. And so the motto here is give, ask. A lot of people talk about not being a secret agent. Like, of course, you can't monetize being a good person, but you can monetize, being influential, by helping people, being of service, supporting people. And for a while there, I had no interest in practicing real estate anymore. I was deterred by the people that were in real estate and not necessarily the people that could be served by real estate. And so, and then also honoring my place in systems, what I do well, and then acting as a vessel, being the best that I can. And people talk about this stuff, regularly. Oh, I heard this from God, or X, Y, and Z. At the end of the day, if you're a good soldier, if you're a good Marine, if you're being a good servant, if you're being trusted with orders, you'll get more orders, right? And that's sort of the idea, that sort of service, that surrender. Saying, hey, listen, this is not something that I could do on my own. This is an us thing. This is, how do we create a leaderless movement? How do we create a movement that will sustain past my beating heart in it, right? And you can't get anywhere alone that will sustain past your life, your influence, et cetera, and so forth. And that, at the end of the day, how can you serve your community? By planting seeds for which you will never enjoy the shade, right? Planting these trees that are going to continue to outgrow you, right? Spending time investing your energy in people will never be time ill spent, right? So if people are our most undervalued, most underutilized resource on this planet, is there bad time spent around helping people, being of service? And I really think that when you bring it down to how can I help versus how can I be helped, it's a lot easier to go out into the world, right? How can I help? How can I help? Okay. Think of a couple of ways that you can help, and then, ask. Because if you start with, hey, do you know anyone who needs to buy or sell real estate? You're going to piss some people off. But if you start off with, hey, did you know that there's, that do you know where the Stater Brothers Shopping Center is? Yes. Getting a yes is a good thing. Did you know that there's a new office down there called Our Community? And then it's either, yeah, I've heard about you guys. I'm really excited about everything that's going on down there. Because at the end of the day, Our Community is not a real estate office. It is a community center, right? It is not a branded real estate office. This is a place where people of all different businesses can gather. And because of that, it really opens up our opportunities where we can go into different areas. People don't necessarily need to be threatened by us because we're doing everything in and around real estate. And then the Serpent team is in French Valley, kind of become a byproduct of the service that we are doing. And so it's just a different way of doing business. And if everything is connected, and if there is no business hat, and if there is no spiritual hat, and if there's no dad hat, but there's just the hat. This is who I am. This is how I serve. Then you aren't necessarily walking into everything necessarily needing to switch gears. And so for a while there, I was sort of like ashamed of being very passionate, right? And that's part of being autistic. I've come to find out, people think, oh, autistic people, they don't feel empathy. They're kind of like robots. It's like, no, we feel a lot of empathy. We feel all the things, right? So like when I look at the world, I was sort of ashamed by how passionate I was, and people would sort of tell me regularly, they would be like, "Ooh, that's a lot. I wasn't expecting that." Blah 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 blah. Like joke out of the fact that this is a time where we are needed to be serious. And yes, during these times where our anger is needed, our sadness is needed, our depression can be utilized, these are great times to laugh, right? Life is constantly this mask of pulling back tragedy and revealing comedy, putting on comedy and hiding the tragedy, right? Revealing the tragedy and there's comedy beneath, right? So like at the end of the day, we have this beautiful opportunity to sort of like be of life. You know, people talk about being spiritual and they're like, oh, I'm so spiritual. And because I'm so spiritual, I spend all this time meditating. That's not Zen. Meditation is not Zen. Zen is like being engaging flow, right? Meditation is a practice, right? Like prayer is a practice. But if you spend 24 hours a day praying and no time acting, prayer without works is what? So at the end of the day, we get an opportunity to act, right? A lot of people will, good morning, Tom. A lot of people will reach out to me and they'll say, hey, David, is this a good idea? And I'm always willing to sound it out with people. But I like to say, well, what do you think? What's your gut tell you? Because there's nobody that stands between you and God. It doesn't matter whatever fancy robe they're wearing. It doesn't matter whatever drapery they're wearing or droopy necklaces or whatever fancy beads they're wearing around their wrist, right? There's nobody that stands between you and the source. I feel like we inherently know what we need to do. Well, why aren't we doing it? And in that sometimes lies the problem. And often the problem is that we have not spent an adequate amount of time healing, right? We haven't spent if we have not spent time hearing ourselves, it's hard to hear anybody else. We got into a very interesting conversation in the office the other day. And, of course, I'm a mystic, and I believe that there's truth in everything. And there's also a lot of lies in everything. And I hope that this person doesn't mind that I'm sharing this conversation, but he was talking about, being a saved Christian. This person is a saved Christian. And I think that the idea behind any sort of religion that has the sort of surrender to a higher source, whether that's Christianity, whether that is, holy war, jihad, dharma, being with, the shattering of, all these different things, bodhicitta, nirvana, and then boom, and then what's next, right? Everything has that element of surrender. And so when you're constantly surrendering, being saved isn't a past thing. It's not like, oh, they were saved, and then it's my life after being saved, right? It's like constantly being with, surrendering to, being a vessel for, God's hands. What do we do with God's hands when we realize that these are His or hers or the infinite wisdoms, right? That we are temporary, this is always, and then whatever this is above us is always, right? Anyway, I understand that I lose people sometimes when I talk like this, but this is important to be at one with our work, not thinking of our work as sacrifice so that we can get to a place where we need to get eventually, right? When you are looking at your work, whether you are feeding the homeless or whether you are knocking on doors, and you can think about it as play, then you're going to stop denying yourself the generational trauma that comes with, oh, work is sacrifice. Work is something that you do in order so that you can, instead of work just being something that you can, right? So, good morning, Zach Block. I love these shirts. You look so handsome. So just being of, right? Being of the world, being of the people, and then also allowing time for sacred space is important, but surrender to it. So Leslie said, I love seniors and I'm close to being one. They are great and sometimes just need someone to talk to. Absolutely, Leslie. Hey, if you want to come down here and start getting involved on our senior Sundays, we'd love to have you, or start one up there. Um, your senior group might be the first senior group here in a couple of years where they listen to Metallica and, and ride Harley Davidsons. Ray Lopez, is there a way to start a coalition of a community of big and small investors and do what the rich do for greater good as far as real estate and buying up land? So as this area grows, more of these big companies want to move in, or home builders, we can profit as a community. Holy crap, that's a great idea. Damn, that's a great idea. Is there a way to start a coalition of a community of big and small investors and do what the rich do, but for a greater good? As far as real estate and buying up land, so as the area grows, more of these big companies want to move in, or home builders,
That's kind of what Peter Edge funds do.
we can profit as a community. Okay, that's really cool. So like, yeah, yeah, and so there's also, the phases of what we've got going on as our community, and I think it'd be important to talk about it. So like, we do have a phase one, a phase two, and a phase three of our community at this point. The first one is the hub, the second one is the village, and the third one is the tribe. We're actively meeting with investors, but like, if we were to able to, match an investment of some sort or give people in the community ownership. Anyway, yeah, it's a really interesting idea. Absolutely, it's a really really interesting idea. We're trying to give people. We're not trying. We're giving people ownership of the Serpa team through action. Prayer without action is just a wish. Absolutely, Zach Bach hanging out with all these religious people fighting human trafficking. What a beautiful thing to do. Callie Carms. Oh, I recognize that face. I love that you made a community center. Serpa fam, creator, bless you all. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Okay, so man, what a great idea, Ray. I love it. I appreciate all the feedback today. We have a very full day here in the office. We have 2 listings hitting the market today. I have appointments all day long. And so I might break a moment early to get some food in my stomach. All right. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my phone number up here really quick so that you guys know how to reach out. Lots of interesting things happening right now. Lots of interesting things happening. Lots of big meetings. If you ever want to come in and just sort of like catch up and see what it is that we've got going on here. Yesterday, I got a call from a student or former student at Ortega High School who's interested in starting his real estate career. I got a call from husband and wife team, what will be a husband and wife team, looking to start a real estate career yesterday. So like at this point, I've got a lot of people very interested in getting started, and now the path is going, and I don't necessarily think that it needs me next semester. So people have been asking if I'm going to be doing this again. It was only ever going to be a 1 semester thing for me, which is why I recorded these, because I need to keep moving forward. Like I want to show people what's possible, and then I want to move forward, and I want to create a new system. So at this point, if you're, if you're a real estate agent, whoever it is that if you're going to become a real estate agent, you want to teach, we outline how to do it. Okay, all right. Anything else from anybody else? I'll stick around on the Zoom chat for just a moment. Feel free to reach out to me with the understanding that I rarely answer my phone, so shoot me a text and we'll chat. All right, everybody, have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you guys on Monday for a really fantastic class that I'm very excited about. We're going to be interviewing Jamie Z. Harris on how to build a healthy and balanced business. I'm looking for the infographic right now on that. Jamie is a gift to the world. She's a gift to real estate. She's a fantastic leader in this community. I really, we've started donating 10% of our commissions because we were influenced by Jamie Z to do it. So we're going to be interviewing her on Monday. Adios, everybody. Have a great day. Oh, and I'll see you soon at 1 o'clock in the office. My love. Have a great day, everybody.